How's it going, guys? Welcome to my channel. And today's episode, I really wanted to go over the importance of recovery because I myself have made many mistakes in the past when it comes to overtraining or, doing things which I thought were helping my recovery, which, might not have been doing anything at all. But I really want to help you guys out with your recovery because I feel like it is something that really comes down to the style of split and your training intensity and a few of your lifestyle habits. So I want to discuss those with you in this video. So the most obvious tip that I kind of want to get out of the way off the bat is simply don't run or train every single day, right? So as a hybrid athlete, you are doing multiple different forms of fitness throughout the week. It can be very easy to overtrain. One thing that I found happened to me last summer was when I decided to kind of get into this hybrid method of training and I wanted to start running and eventually do marathons, I just went full force and started running every day. I actually challenged myself, and I vlogged this on my TikTok, but I challenged myself to run 5 kilometers every single day for 30 days straight. And I think I've mentioned this on the channel before, but I only made it to like day 24 or day 25 before I started getting some plantar fasciitis. My shoes were wearing down, not to mention I was weightlifting 5-6 times a week on top of that. I was just doing too much. And I think it was a learning experience that I needed to go through. But that's why I wanted to relay that message to you. So simply don't run every day, don't train every day. And then when it comes to hybrid training, if you have specific goals, whether it's with weightlifting or running, that needs to be prioritized. So one of the two needs to sort of take a little bit of a back seat. Obviously still focus on it, but you need to take a little bit of a back seat so that the other one can progress, right? Because recovery is where the magic happens. Recovery is where muscle tissue is repaired, it's where muscle tissue is grown, so that way you can perform better on your next workout, right? So if you don't allow your body to recover and prepare for the next workout, you're not going to get better, right? You're just going to continuously keep breaking down muscle tissue, and eventually your immune system is going to take a hit from that as well. And then you'll be so sore and hurt in different areas, in so many different areas, that you won't be able to train at all. And then if you can't train at all, you can't progress. I guess we could say this is tip number 2, but you should also split up your running from your lifting. I don't really recommend doing them back to back in the same day, because if you're a true hybrid athlete, eventually you're going to get to the point where you're running like 10 plus kilometers on like a decently regular basis. And, that takes a bit of time. And you don't want to do that and then go lift, or lift and then go run. You want to make sure that, you have some time in between to refuel for that next exercise session, because, your weightlifting is probably going to be at least an hour long. Your running session is going to be at least an hour long, 40 minutes to an hour maybe, or probably more than an hour, in certain sessions. You want to break it up so that you're fueling properly. All right, tip number 3, you should have hard days, and of course you should have easy days, and then you should also have off days, right? This is like this sort of progressive cycle that you should have going on, right? So with your running, you should have hard days where hard would be either long distances, so maybe your running is up to like 20 kilometers or more, whatever is like your long distance for you, right? It might be the longest distance that you've ever ran. It might be close to the longest distance that you've ever ran. That would be a hard run. Your speed runs, again, doing hard intervals, speed intervals, sprinting, those would be considered a hard run. And of course you have like recovery runs, then you have, little short distance runs. Those would be your easy days. And then of course you have days where you just don't run, right? So make sure you have all 3 of those throughout the run of the week, and you should be okay. Like, even if you kind of did like a basic cycle of like a hard running day, an easy running day, and then an off day, and then repeated that, or even reverse that cycle. Let's say you had an off day, an easy running day, and then a really hard running day, and then you repeated that cycle. I think that would be a fair split to start off with, right? And then eventually you could work your way into a little bit more of an advanced progression. And same thing with your weightlifting. Looking at, let's say you're weightlifting 3 to 4 days a week. With a hybrid training, that's going to be sort of the ideal. Once you get into that 5-6 days a week of weightlifting, that's when recovery can be difficult to manage. You should have weeks where you're weight training is really intense, really hard, you're lifting really heavy, you're training a lot of your sets to failure. And then you should have weeks where you're sort of dialing, simply just dialing the intensity back, or maybe dialing the volume back, right? That way you're allowing your body to, not get a full week off, but essentially allow your body to recover much easier from your workouts. Because those hard lifts where you're training to failure, that can take 2 to 3 days to recover from. And if you're working out quite frequently, you're just constantly beating the body down. And eventually your nervous system's just not going to be able to bounce back. And you're going to feel a lot of pain in your joints. You're going to notice that you can't focus. You're going to notice that you're fatigued very quickly, whether it's your runs or your lifting. So make sure you're cycling through between hard, intense days, easy to moderate days, and then complete days off. I think at the very least, you should have 1 day a week where you're not doing either running or lifting. Walking at the very least, or at the very most, right? So have days where you're doing absolutely nothing, because your body needs those days. Now, the last tip that I want to talk about is your lifestyle habits that really make the difference when it comes to recovery, right? Because obviously, I think overall, your schedule and how you split up your workouts is going to be a big dictator of how your recovery is going to go. Because if you have perfect sleep, perfect protein intake, perfect diet, you're hydrated constantly, let's say you're stretching, you're foam rolling, whatever it is you're doing, your supplementation's great. All of those things are not going to allow you to recover from anything and everything, right? There comes a point where, your lifestyle and your habits are perfect for recovery, but if you're training too much, it's just not gonna help. Sleep routine, my tip with sleep is just to get consistent. Your body loves to know when it's time to get up and go, and it loves to know when to shut down and recover. If your sleeping is sporadic, it's harder for you to get into that deep sleep. Tip number 2, as far as lifestyle habits, would be stay hydrated. Just make sure that you are hydrated as much as possible. Obviously, when you're doing hybrid training, you are lifting weights and you are running, which requires a lot of water. There's a lot of water loss, especially with running. So it's important to make sure that you're getting enough in, make sure that you're taking in a lot of electrolytes throughout the day, and just stay hydrated. This is something that's easy to forget, especially if you're someone who's busy like me throughout the week and you get carried away with work. You can forget to even take a sip of water for a few hours, and that's just not ideal. Let's say if you have a lifting session that night. Now, protein in your diet is probably the most important. Of course, carbs are important for fueling, but in terms of recovery, we want to make sure that you're getting enough protein. And of course, I think it's important to track your protein for a certain period of time so you get an understanding of what you need to eat to get a good level of protein. Of course, if you're a fit individual and you're not overweight by any means, using the 1 gram of protein per body weight is perfect. But one thing I will point out about that is that if you are an overweight individual, if you're pushing 20% body fat or more, that might not necessarily be ideal, right? Because of course, your body weight's just going to be at a level that's just, when you start getting like 300 pounds, 320, and I've coached people like this, you can't use that rule, right? So just seeing that rule on the internet doesn't really help everybody out there. But if you are a fit individual and you're fairly lean and you're at a healthy body fat percentage, that rule works just great. The last thing I want to mention is alcohol consumption and the frequency at which you consume it. I'm not saying that you need to be sober. I'm not saying that you should never drink. And this is personal experience. When it becomes an every weekend thing, let's say every Saturday night you get together with your friends, and even if it's not like the fact that you're hammering back drinks, you're hammering back beers, it could be 4 or 5 drinks, that's going to affect your performance the next day, going to affect your recovery the next day as well. So just be aware of how often you're drinking and how much. Those are my tips in terms of recovery and hybrid training. So hopefully those tips help you guys out. If you guys have more questions about recovery, let me know in the comments. As well as if you guys are interested in my coaching program as well, I have some availability going into the spring, leading towards summer. So just let me know, leave a comment. You can also search up my Instagram handle as well and send me a message there if you'd like. So have an amazing day, guys. Peace out. I will see you next week.